Of Wisconsin Democratic candidate Matt Flynn saying that he would pardon low-level convictions. That would apply to people who weren't involved in violence or dealing, but he admits that he doesn't know how many that would be. Incumbent Governor Scott Walker has refused to legalize marijuana in his state. Walmart is fighting back against the opioid epidemic. They're giving out first-of-its-kind free packets that safely dispose of unused prescription drugs. Customers empty the contents into a pill bottle, and then they add warm water, which turns the drugs into a harmless gel, they say. And the packets are coming to some 4,700 Walmart pharmacies nationwide. And Kim Jong-un's friend, Dennis Rodman, checking himself into, you see him there, rehab following a DUI arrest in California. His agent saying that the former basketball Hall of Famer is battling alcoholism at a rehabilitation center in New Jersey. Rodman spent 3 weeks at that same rehab facility back in 2014 after visiting the dictator friend in North Korea, saying that he needed to, quote, decompress from that trip. And then just weeks from his Super Bowl 52 halftime performance, Justin Timberlake is opening up about that infamous 2004 wardrobe malfunction we all saw with Janet Jackson.
It's just something that you have to look back on and go like, okay, well, you know, you can't change what's happened, but you know, you can move forward and learn from it.
And you and Janet took some time to do that after the fact and kind of resolve the situation, and like we're able to make peace in the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Well, Timberlake has not publicly apologized to Jackson for that incident in Super Bowl 38. Well, that wraps it up for this hour of Fox and Friends First, but it continues right now. I'll see you tomorrow right here. Bye-bye.
It is Thursday, January 18th, a Fox News exclusive. 2 months after a border agent is murdered in cold blood, still no answers. How are these illegals able to cross the border and carry out such a heinous crime? We are live in Texas as the immigration debate rages on in Washington with less than 48 hours until the government runs out of money.
President Trump back on the trail today, touting taxes and stumping for the Republican congressional candidate in Pittsburgh. Why this special election is so important.
It's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It didn't happen. It's fake news. Fake news. Fake news.
And the moment you've been waiting for, President Trump breaking the internet with his fake news awards. Fox and Friends First continues right now. This is a new one. I can honestly say I've never heard this song. You, Todd?
But I really liked Haley Steinfeld in Pitch Perfect 2.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, she was great in that. Never heard this song.
Call. I can't wait to see the third one. Good morning to you, by the way. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Thursday. I'm Jillian Mealing.
And I'm Todd Pyro in for Rob Schmidt. Thank you for starting your day with us. All right, straight to our top story. Deal or no deal with a government shutdown just 1 day away, lawmakers under mounting pressure to deliver a deal on Dreamers.
Garrett Tenney is live in Washington, D.C. with the last-ditch efforts. Good morning, Garrett.
Good morning, y'all. There are two big deadlines we're looking at here. One is to avoid a government shutdown, and that deadline is tomorrow. The other is DACA, which Congress has until March 5th to find a permanent solution for. The problem is, leading Democrats have said they won't support any spending bill to keep the government open if it doesn't address the Dreamers. And at this point, the White House believes it is highly unlikely lawmakers will reach a deal to do that before tomorrow's deadline, meaning Republicans will largely be on their own to avoid a government shutdown. And that is why the GOP is accusing Democrats of playing politics over keeping our military funded.
Real deadlines are occurring this Friday. And the real deadlines that occur this Friday are our men and women in uniform and children's health insurance in many states that will run out of money.
We are expecting a vote on a proposed spending bill later today, but it's still not clear if Republicans will have enough support among themselves for it to pass. Yesterday, President Trump also indicated negotiations still have a ways to go before any deal is reached on immigration. In an interview with Reuters, he slammed a bipartisan deal that was reached last week by a group of moderates, saying it's the opposite of what I campaigned for. It's horrible for the security of our country. The president wants that deal to include funding for his border wall, and last night on Special Report, his chief of staff conceded that Mexico likely will not be paying for that wall directly.
Mexico's not going to pay.
We have some ideas on how things like visa fees, renegotiation on NAFTA and what that would mean to our economy. So in one way or another, it's possible that we could get the revenue from Mexico, but not directly from their government.
And President Trump also went on to say in his interview with Reuters that he is still hopeful they can reach a deal on immigration in DACA, but he did say time is running out. Back to y'all.
Yes, it is. Thank you very much, Garrett. So if the government does shut down, what does it mean for our military?
General Anthony Tata, who has more than 3 decades of public service as a military officer, says it would have a huge impact, not just on our troops on the ground, but around the world.
You've got soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines living paycheck to paycheck, and they're in their foxholes doing their jobs. Why can't Congress do its job? That's what goes through my mind. And so Congress just needs to lock the door, slide some pizzas under there, get some Diet Cokes, and stay up 24/7 until they get this thing done. Yeah. Because the unpredictability for the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines on the ground, and the DOD civilians that are going to be furloughed that support all of our deployed men and women around the globe is, this unpredictability is absolutely something that creates havoc with the budgets, with how you can support troops on the ground. And Congress needs to understand that, because it is a big deal. And it not only impacts the troops on the ground in deployed areas, but all the support systems throughout the United States and around the world.
President Trump echoing those concerns, tweeting last week, the Democrats are shutting down our military at a time we need it most.
Anytime President Trump back on the trail today, stopping for a special election candidate in Pittsburgh. Also on the agenda, you may have heard of this, Jillian, the booming economy.
You know what? I heard a little bit about that. The president getting a first-hand look at how his tax reform plan is helping American workers. Caroline Shively is live in Washington, D.C. with what we can expect today. Good morning, Caroline.
Good morning to you guys. It is part policy speech, part victory lap today as President Trump goes to Pennsylvania to talk about tax reform and the economy. Here's something we expect him to highlight. Apple just announced it is hiring 20,000 new workers and paying $38 billion in taxes on profits they've been keeping overseas. The company is taking advantage of a one-year window made in the tax reform law that lets companies repatriate money at a lower tax rate. The tech company is also giving $2,500 stock bonuses to most of its employees and says it will make $30 billion in capital expenditures in the U.S. over the next 5 years.
So it sounds like President Trump's tax bill has been a huge windfall for Apple.
There are two parts of tax bill, right? There's a corporate piece and an individual piece. I do believe the corporate tax side will result in job creation and a faster growing economy.
Another potential topic yesterday, the Dow closed above 26,000 for the first time as some of the biggest U.S. companies released stronger than expected quarterly results. Some investors are nervous about a potential government shutdown if Congress doesn't pass a spending bill by Friday. Despite that, the NASDAQ also hit a record. The president won't just be in rural Pittsburgh today talking about the economy. He'll also be talking up Republican congressional candidate Rick Saccone, who's facing Democrat Conor Lamb in a special election in March. Some congressional candidates are wary of embracing the president because of his low poll numbers. But Saccone has described himself as Trump before Trump was Trump and is embracing the president's help. Todd and Jillian, back to you.
It's going to be a busy 2018,
yes,
and this one's kicking it off before the normal ones in November.
And we will have more on that important race in just the next few minutes, actually, so stay tuned for that. Caroline, thank you.
You bet.
The parents accused of torturing and starving their 13 children set to face a judge today. The hearing comes as we learn the house, which was registered as a private school, was actually never inspected, which is required by law. The father, 57-year-old David Turpin, listed himself as the principal. Authorities in Paris County, California, just discovered David and his wife were holding their kids hostage and abusing them for years after one of them escaped and managed to call 911 from a disabled cell phone.
A hero has died from his wounds after being shot in the line of duty. 12-year veteran York County Detective Michael Doty was one of 4 law enforcement officers ambushed while on a manhunt for a domestic violence suspect in South Carolina. 3 other sergeants, Randy Clinton, Buddy Brown, and Kyle Cummings, are expected to be okay. The suspect, Christian McCall, was also shot. He's now facing attempted murder charges and likely murder charges following Doty's death.
In just hours from now, House investigators are expected to question Jim Rebicki on the probe into Hillary Clinton's private email server. The chief of staff and senior counselor to FBI Director Christopher Wray is expected to testify with both the House Oversight and Judiciary Committee. This comes after private text messages between top FBI investigators revealed possible anti-Trump bias in the Clinton email probe.
President Trump willing to talk with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un to confront the growing nuclear threat. The president telling Reuters, quote, "I'd sit down, but I'm not sure that sitting down will solve the problem. They've talked for 25 years, and they've taken advantage of our presidents, of our previous presidents." This all comes as rival North Korea and South Korea agree to march together at next month's Olympics and play on a joint women's hockey.
It's wide open.
2 months after a Border Patrol agent is murdered at the hands of illegal immigrants, still no answers. Well, Griff Jenkins went looking for some. We're live on the border with him coming up.
And striking a deal while cities across the nation defy the president's immigration policies. Meet the sheriffs who are taking matters into their own hands, teaming up with the feds.
And President Trump back in his element, stumping for a congressional candidate in Pittsburgh. So why is this special election so important? We get to the bottom of it when Fox and Friends First returns on a Thursday. Against President Donald Trump in 2020. Democratic operative and head of former President Obama's re-election campaign, Jim Messina, telling ABC News there are 16, count them, 16 potential candidates asking for advice. Messina did not reveal any of the potential candidates' names specifically. And while many on the left love the idea of Oprah running for president, most Americans apparently aren't buying it.
I have one word, one name, and it's Oprah.
That was the voice of a leader.
At this point, wouldn't President be a demotion for Oprah? I feel like it would.
Oprah 2020 rumors sparked earlier this month after speech at the Golden Globes, but a new poll found that just 24% of registered voters surveyed actually want her to compete for the White House. Turns out 59% thinks she shouldn't throw her hat into the ring. Jillian?
Well, Todd, President Trump heading to Pittsburgh today to tout his tax cut plan, but he's also there to stump for Republican State Representative Rick Saccone in his congressional run. Why is this special election so important? Here with an answer, Republican political strategist Mike Devaney. Thanks for joining us this morning, Mike. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Jillian. Glad to be here.
Look, Pennsylvania was huge in Donald Trump winning the presidency. We all know that. And his popularity, especially in this area, wasn't really a concern. Do you think that's going to be a shift now? Is that why he's going out there?
I think President Trump and the White House are coming to southwestern Pennsylvania, not only because it's a battleground for presidential politics, but we have a March 6th special election for the 18th Congressional District. It's going to be a hotly contested race, and I think the White House is showing its commitment to making sure that that race stays in Republican hands.
You know, after the loss in the Alabama Senate race, that was a huge thing for the Republican Party last month. How important is it that they win this one?
I think it's critically important. This is a district that President Trump won by 20 points. Mitt Romney, when he ran for president, won it by 17 points. And despite the fact that Democrats outnumber Republicans in this district, we've been electing Republicans here in southwestern Pennsylvania despite that registration disadvantage. And so it's conservative Democrats, it's Reagan Democrats, it's pro-life, pro-gun Democrats, who really are the swing voters in this district. They were very important parts of President Trump's coalition, and they're going to be critical to Rick Saccone winning.
We have a Gravis poll right now that shows Rick Saccone with 46% and Conor Lamb 34%. Conor Lamb, obviously the Democrat there. What do these numbers tell you at this point?
Well, first and foremost, they tell us that the Republican Party has invested in Rick Saccone. On the airwaves here, Saccone allied groups have been on the air for over 2 weeks. And despite the fact that national Democrats continue to tout Conor Lamb as the best candidate since sliced bread, they really haven't come with reinforcements and money. Poll numbers move when there's been advertising and television advertising. Saccone's had the backing of the party, and thus far, Lamb has not. He's still waiting for reinforcements. Is
this race a blueprint for 2018 for what's to come this year?
You know, I think it certainly is. Look, this is a district that President Trump, as I mentioned, won by 20 points. We had a special state Senate election in Wisconsin yesterday in a district that the president won by 17 points, and they voted for a Democrat. So obviously, the eyes of the nation are going to be on the March 6th special election. If the Democrats do win this race, you know, certainly they're winning a race in deep red Republican territory.
Yeah.
And that really could be, you know, an omen for what's to come in November.
Which territory that wasn't a problem last year. Let's talk about
Exactly.
the significance of President Trump meeting at the manufacturing plant while he's out there.
Well, look, this is a great opportunity. I know the president's going to be here along with Secretary Mnuchin as well as Rick Saccone to highlight the already the effects that businesses and employees are seeing in the tax reform bill. There's also an interest here in this special election because the Democratic candidate is someone who's spoken out against tax reform. Rick Saccone is somebody who has spoken in favor of it. We're going here right to a business where you're seeing employees who are not quote unquote the rich who are already seeing the benefits of this tax bill. We're seeing a local company here in Pittsburgh that's already reinvesting not only in its employees and in its equipment and growing. And, you know, this is going to be a key issue in this race here in southwestern Pennsylvania.
Well, right, and those people that you speak of that aren't, quote unquote, the rich in this country, they're the people who are in favor of the tax plan, the tax reform plan.
Well, President Trump in the White House talked about coming here to the forgotten people here in southwestern Pennsylvania. Look, Pittsburgh is a growing, vibrant city, but you know you get a little outside of Pittsburgh, and there are still some areas that are hurting. This is exactly the type of policies that are going to empower workers, not the rich. And I think not only is this a microcosm of this race, but this is exactly what we're seeing throughout the country. We hear the rhetoric that things like the tax reform are only for the rich, but it's actually working people who are going to benefit from it. It's going to grow our economy, create jobs, and that's going to be important for the Republicans this fall.
Absolutely. Mike Devaney, we will certainly see what happens. Thanks for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much.
All right, time now is 18 minutes after the hour. A brand new bombshell in the Fusion GPS dossier saga. One of Hillary Clinton's closest confidants now under the FBI's microscope.
It's all fake news. It's phony stuff. It didn't happen. It's fake news. Fake news. Fake news.
It's the moment you've been waiting for. President Trump breaking the internet with his fake news awards. Carly Shimkus is here with the winners or the losers, depending on how you look at it, to be determined. Probably the losers.
Didn't happen. It's fake news. Fake news.
And, well, he just broke the internet a little bit differently than Kim Kardashian did, thank goodness, releasing his fake news awards.
Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115. Here with the results.
Who knew that President Trump and Kim Kardashian had anything in common? But I guess they did. They both broke the internet. So President Trump did set social media on fire with 6 eagerly anticipated words. And the fake news winners are. So shortly after he tweeted a link to the award winners, the GOP.gov website actually crashed, likely due to the high number of people visiting that website all at one time. So the awards featured 11 different winners, and the first person to be named was Paul Krugman of the New York Times for saying that the economy, the markets would never recover from a President Trump election victory. We now know, of course, that is not true. Stocks are surging thanks in part to the president's tax cuts. Now, CNN was named 4 separate times. One of them was for the whole koi fish debacle. Do you guys remember that? Oh, yeah. The president was criticized for appearing to overfeed the koi fish, but it turns out that he was just following the Japanese prime minister's lead. So, you know, he got a lot of criticism for that. Thankfully, no koi fish were harmed in the making of that video. We can all sleep peacefully at night. Brian Ross of ABC, we knew this one was coming, was also listed for this now infamous false report naming Michael Flynn and Russia. Take a listen.
He is prepared to testify that President Trump, as a candidate, Donald Trump, directed him to make contact with the Russians, which contradicts all that Donald Trump has said at this point.
All right, so that, of course, turned out not to be true. Brian Ross did apologize for that. Time Magazine also received an award for after a reporter claimed that President Trump removed a bust of Martin Luther King Jr. from the Oval Office. Sarah Huckabee Sanders corrected that by tweeting out a picture that shows that the bust is still there. And last but not least, President Trump saying that the whole Russia collusion story is the greatest hoax of all time. So, you know, any story dealing with the Russia collusion issue made the list as well. So what is social media reaction to this whole thing? Kind of mixed. If you like the president's tweeting and if you think that his treatment of the media is fair, then you probably liked it. If you don't agree with that, then you probably hated it. Robert on Twitter made this point, though. He says, far more interesting than the Oscars and the Golden Globes. And President Trump, by the way, did end off things on a high note yesterday, saying, despite some of the very corrupt and dishonest media coverage, there are many great reporters I respect and lots of good news for the American people to be proud of. So that's a wrap-up of the Fake News Awards.
You know, at one point yesterday, everyone was wondering if it was going to happen. So then when he tweeted out that link, I think that's why everyone immediately tried to get on that site.
You know, I think there were pros and cons. It wasn't 3 hours like a regular award show, so, you know, you can go to bed.
There was no red carpet.
I was missing the fashion.
Yeah, I was saying the fashion wasn't as good.
Yeah, so we got to give it, like, I don't know, a C-.
Okay.
Next year, President Trump, I expect to see dresses. Thank you, Carly.
Thanks a lot. It is 26 minutes after the hour. Killed in cold blood. A border agent believed to be beaten to death at the hands of illegal immigrants, but 2 months later, still no arrests.
Our own Griff Jenkins live for us at the border investigating. Griff, good morning.
Good morning, Todd and Jillian. That's right. We're here in El Paso on the border, but about 120 miles southeast is where Agent Martinez was believed to be assaulted. We'll take you to that border and show you. You're not going to believe what we saw.
He was beaten so badly, he doesn't remember what happened.
The FBI doesn't investigate accidents. The fact that they continue to retain jurisdiction in this matter clearly shows that they believe that this was an attack on federal law enforcement agents, and therefore it was a murder.
Our own Griff Jenkins went down to the southern border to do some digging.
He joins us live from El Paso, Texas. Griff, good morning.
Todd and Jillian, good morning. That Border Patrol Council President Brandon Judd took me about 120 miles southeast of here, where they believe that Agent Martinez was brutally beaten to death by smugglers who came across the border just 30 miles south. It is unbelievable how wide open and dangerous that border is. Take a look.
Assaults on federal law enforcement agents that have jurisdiction over the border, they're up by 76% over 2016. A lot of that has to
76%.
76%. And frankly, not to make this a political issue, but President Trump has done a great job on the border. We know that border crossings are down. We know that it's a lot more difficult.
So essentially, because it's tougher to come across that border, they're protecting their product more, and that puts agents in much greater danger because the smugglers are more willing to defend their product.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening. Crime is just like water. It takes the path of least resistance. So as we're focusing our resources in areas like RGV, in areas like El Paso, in areas like San Diego, crime is going to move to the areas where it's going to be a lot easier for them to get their products across. And right now, that's this area in the Big Bend, Texas sector.
Let's go take a look.
This is a great view for everybody in the United States that has never seen the border. It's wide open. There's absolutely nothing deterring them. All they have to do is get their product up to Interstate 10, and once they get it in a vehicle in Interstate 10, they can take it anywhere in the United States. Agent Martinez was murdered about 40 miles north of here. If you just cross this border and you walk straight that way, you will run right into that culvert where Agent Martinez was killed.
This is one of the major crossings for drug smugglers in Big Bend. That side Mexico, this the United States. Nothing separates it but a knee-deep river. That's the case in most of the 500 miles of the Big Bend sector. So do they need a wall?
That's not a barrier right there. There's nothing that is going to stop anybody from just walking across that, driving a vehicle across that. That's not a barrier. And so, although I'm not advocating for 510 miles worth of physical barrier, what I am saying is if we put them in strategic locations and we get to determine where crossings take place, we can put our agents agents where those crossings will take place, thereby giving us the border security that we need. The public in the United States has spoken that they want border security, but yet this is what we have.
There were over 700 assaults on Border Patrol agents last year as it relates to Agent Martinez's death and his partner of Agent Garland being assaulted but living. The FBI says that investigation is still ongoing. They could not give any comments, but there's still a $50,000 reward for information leading to it. We tried to talk with the family who agreed at first to talk to us, but now they're not going on camera because they want more information. But I can't tell you how incredible the job the Border Patrol is doing out here on that open border area, the 500-plus miles of Bid-Bin sector, knowing that it may have been easy for smugglers to come across. Todd, Jillian?
Nice work, Griff. You know, we hope, especially for their family's sake, that they get answers.
So preventable at the end of the day. Unbelievable. All right, Griff, thank you. More than a dozen sheriffs teaming up with ICE to keep Americans safe. The agreement will allow local authorities from 17 Florida counties to hold illegal immigrants longer than the 48-hour limit until federal authorities can pick them up so that they are not released back on the streets.
But when it comes to criminal illegals, there should be no discussion, there should be no debate, there should be no hesitation, there should be no consideration, as they need to go, and they need to stay gone.
ICE hopes to strike similar deals across the country. The suspected terrorist accused of killing 8 innocent people is now hoping to save his own life. Sayfullo Saipov is accused of mowing down a crowd on a New York City bike path. His lawyers expecting to enter a guilty plea, but hoping to take the death penalty off the table in exchange for life in prison. Saipov told investigators that ISIS inspired him to carry out that horrific attack.
A brand new bombshell in the fake Trump dossier that helped kickstart the Russian probe. According to investigative reporter Sarah Carter, the FBI interviewed a longtime Hillary Clinton aide in connection to the bogus report. And that's not all. The feds also used Sidney Blumenthal's statements as evidence to investigate the Trump campaign. The FBI declined to comment. Newt Gingrich now demanding to know, where is the outrage? The former Speaker of the House says it's time for accountability over what he calls the media's deliberate omission of Uranium One coverage.
How can the Washington Post or the New York Times get up in the morning and look at themselves and not cover this? I mean, there's something really that's almost pathological, because as you're pointing out, week after week, more and more things are coming out. It's not just hearsay. It's not just investigative reporting. I talked to some business people a while ago who said to me, oh, well, how do you think all of this is going to play out? And they clearly were thinking only of Trump. And I said, well, I think the 11-count indictment on Uranium One probably doesn't bode well for Hillary. They knew nothing about it. You're beginning to see the pieces come together in what I think is only going to be an unbelievably big scandal, and makes me feel that the defeat of Hillary, even more important than electing Trump, defeating Hillary so the corruption couldn't go on and not be noticed.
All right, snow and ice crippling the Deep South. Crashes across several states claiming at least 10 lives. More than 2,000 flights canceled from Florida to Maine. And proof even the best drivers should stay off the roads in wicked weather. Check this out. Dale Earnhardt Jr. skidding off the road and hitting a tree after helping people stuck in ditches. If he can't do it, trust me, you can't either. The bitter cold, though, isn't over yet. Senior meteorologist Janice Dean tracking it all for you. Janice, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, better days ahead, especially for the eastern half of the country. But yesterday, all 50 states had reports of snow on the ground. That doesn't happen very often, including North Florida. Current temperatures, you can tell it's cold as far south as the Gulf Coast. And with the wind chills, we're talking about single digits, what it feels like. And teens out there, feels like 0 in Atlanta, Georgia. They got snow yesterday as well. So the good news is this storm is moving eastward along with that Arctic cold front. And there's going to be a shift in the pattern. So colder air moving into the west, warmer air for the east. So there's the last 12 hours. The worst of the storm is offshore now and continues to move eastward. And those forecast temperatures around seasonal by the time we get into Friday. So that is good news. There's that future radar. And then we watch our next storm system on deck for the Pacific Northwest. This is going to move across much of the country. But the good news is, as it pushes across the East Coast, it will be mainly a rain event because it's going to be too warm for snow. So there's your silver lining, I think.
Okay, we'll take it.
You'll take it?
Any silver lining.
And tomorrow is Friday.
Yes.
What?
Double silver lining.
Good, right?
All right, so the Patriots' greatest weapon now in question ahead of the AFC Championship game. QB Tom Brady injuring his throwing hand during practice.
Sources, that's the key part of this, say a teammate accidentally ran into him, jamming his hand, limiting him for the rest of practice. Yesterday, the X-ray did not show serious damage.
But because he is Tom Brady, he is expected to play in the game against the Jacksonville Jaguars this Sunday.
Also, they have a history of putting out fake injury reports to throw off other teams.
Fake news?
So I'm pretty sure Tom Brady will be there, not Brian Hoyer, if I'm a betting man.
I'm pretty sure he'll be fine. Okay, so just weeks from his Super Bowl 52 halftime performance, Justin Timberlake is opening up about the infamous 2004 wardrobe malfunction with Janet Jackson.
It's just something that you have to look back on and go like, okay, well, you know, you can't change what's happened, but you know, you can move forward and learn from it.
And you and Janet took some time to do that after the fact and kind of resolve the situation, and like we're able to make peace of the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Well, Timberlake has not publicly apologized to Jackson for that incident in Super Bowl 38. Okay, I'm calling fake news on this one, too.
Oh.
Wasn't this all a setup? I mean, I'm no fashion person, but would that stuff be underneath your outfit if you weren't planning this?
I don't know. All I know is that a lot of people are now questioning, why is he allowed to perform at the Super Bowl again? Why is she not? So this is a conversation that's going to keep going on. You like how I just avoided that question?
That's smart.
All right, though, in other news, an illegal immigrant admitting to brutally murdering 2 cops, saying he wished he killed more.
I regret that. The only thing that I regret is the kill too. I wish I killed more of them. I will break up soon, and I will kill more.
So as the debate over immigration reform rages on, why haven't you heard of this horrific story? We debate it next.
I'm a guy who eats McDonald's and fried chicken and all those Diet Cokes and who never exercises isn't as good.
And a transesophageal echocardiogram.
No, it's a transthoracic.
Well, the president's doctor says he's in excellent health, but that's not stopping CNN from trying to diagnose him.
2 state troopers and a kid hanging out at Starbucks. The amazing story behind this picture and why it's going viral this morning.
Who gunned down 2 cops. The 37-year-old laughing in the courtroom as he admitted to committing the heinous act and promising to do it again.
I regret that. The only thing that I regret is the kill too. I wish I killed more of them. I will break up soon, and I will kill more.
Immigration now front and center in our nation's capital. So why isn't the media even talking about this case? Here now to debate, New York City Councilman Joe Borelli and liberal analyst Cathy Areu. Thanks both for being here. I'm going to begin with Joe. Joe, why isn't the mainstream media covering this?
Well, first and foremost, it plays into the narrative that Republicans are trying to push, that people who are coming here should be thoroughly vetted. But I think more to the point with this particular case, it's actually putting the Republicans on an equal footing with Democrats in the only argument they have on DACA and illegal immigration, and that's the emotional appeal. It's very difficult for Democrats to look into the family of Detective Danny Oliver or Detective Mike Davis and tell them that Sacramento, that California should be a sanctuary city.
Cathy, your response.
Well, I don't think this is a case of an undocumented person at all. This is a case of mental illness and gun control. So what happened here was a horrible crime that you can't defend in any single way, but it has nothing to do with illegal immigration. It's a sick person with access to a gun that committed these horrible crimes.
Well, let me ask you this. No disagreement that mental illness is a major issue in society, but wouldn't Joe's idea of vetting have prevented this?
Well, we don't know. If they vetted him at the time, he might have been fine. We know with mental illness, people change. He could have been fine a few years ago and then snapped. So we don't know with mental illness. So we have our own homegrown people that have mental illness, and they just snap.
Look, the truth is right now the Republican Party has put together an immigration package that pretty much gives Democrats what they want on DACA. And all they're asking for in return is the ability to vet people, the ability to end chain migration, the ability to have a lottery system, the ability to look at people like this, who we don't want in this country, and prevent them from coming here. It's appalling that the Democrats are still trying to take the moral high horse and sit on it and demand a clean DACA bill when things that they supported in the past that would have helped prevented people like this criminal, they're now opposed.
I hate Steinle and people like that.
But we don't know that.
We don't know that if we had deported Kate Steinle's killer and the killer in this situation right after they committed their initial crimes, that they wouldn't have committed these crimes?
We don't know anything about these people. We don't know about their mental illness, so we don't know. But the truth is, there's so many immigrants contributing in our community. They are giving, they're paying taxes. There are millions of undocumented citizens living in this country who are helping our country. So this is just a case of some bad apples that have gotten through some way, and I don't think there's anything that could have stopped such horrible crimes.
And there's almost no argument at this point from Republicans. They're putting DACA. I mean, first of all, it was Barack Obama who told us that DACA was a temporary program, right?
This is not DACA.
Now you have Republicans putting the best deal on the table for DACA. Republicans do not believe that everyone who's here undocumented or illegal is out in a murderous band murdering people. But the point is, we want to be able to vet those people and prevent future DACAs from happening.
This is not a DACA person. This person would have probably committed these horrible crimes somewhere and to someone. This is a bad person.
This person was in this country illegally. That's the fact we know. And if we had better systems of border security and
gun control and mental illness help, would have helped this man.
California has the highest level of gun control of any state in the United States of America.
They still have
and yet still, you know, somehow, because it was illegal for this person to possess this weapon, they still managed to do so.
This debate will continue. Obviously, we can't continue it here because we have time constraints. But thank you, the two of you, for being here, Joe and Kathy, as always. And they're actually very good friends off camera. Jillian, over to you.
All right, it is 47 minutes after the hour. Coming soon, Fire and Fury on the small screen. Is The Resistance turning their new favorite book into a TV show? But first, let's check in with Steve Doocy to see what's coming up on Fox & Friends. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning to you, Jillian. Good to see you on this Thursday. Coming up on Fox & Friends in a dozen minutes, we've got Judge Napolitano, Mercedes Schlapp, Newt Gingrich, Sarah Carter, and Senator John Cornyn talking politics. Plus, and this is going to be great, producer Jerry Bruckheimer has done some of the biggest movies in Hollywood. He's going to join the commander of Task Force Dagger and talk about the brand new movie that officially opens tomorrow. It's called 12 Strong, which tells the story of the U.S. Special Forces, who were the first to fight in Afghanistan shortly after September the 11th. Remember them? They were the guys who showed up on horses. Wow. We got a busy 3 hours. Kicks off exactly 12 minutes from right now, right here on the channel you trust for your morning news. Fox & Friends first. Back in a couple of minutes.
1-year history above 26,000.
Tracy Carrasco from our sister network, Fox Business, here with the record-breaking numbers. Hey, Tracy.
Good morning. Yes, it seems the Dow just cannot be stopped. It was just 13 days ago, 8 trading sessions ago, that we passed that 25,000 milestone. Here we are at 26,000. We closed the day up more than 300 points yesterday at 26,115. And this was the shortest span since we've gained 1,000 points. So far, Dow up more than 5% in 2018. And a lot of this is based on the optimism that tax cuts will bring a very good corporate earnings, and of course the economy is doing well, so a lot of people jumping into the market right now.
It is incredible to watch. All right, so Apple says new jobs are on the way?
Yes, so Apple's going to open up a new campus. It's part of a 5-year $30 billion investment plan that will create some 20,000 jobs. This is in addition to giving its current employees $2,500 in restricted stock, and then it's also going to make a $38 billion one-time payment on its overseas cash, so to bring that back here to the U.S. And this is one of the largest spending plans that we've seen since the GOP tax plan was signed by the president. So this is all great news, doing well for the economy, and big things for Apple.
Total win-win right there. Yes. All right, so I guess America is not happy with only the Krispy Kreme original. They want more, and so Krispy Kreme is giving them more.
Why mess with perfection?
I agree.
Well, you know what? They want to give people the chance to vote on something new. So you can now, between now and January 22nd, vote online on Krispy Kreme's website. You can choose 4 new flavors: blueberry, caramel, maple, and lemon. And so on January 25th, they will pick a winner, and then in the spring, they will bring this winner to stores for 1 week. My vote is for maple.
Maple?
Yeah. Yes.
Is there a write-in option? Because I would maybe want to try like a red velvet.
That's a lot of people want to pick their own. They don't want these 4. They want more.
I say we go with extra glaze because I love the glaze there so much. Tracy, thank you. And speaking of healthy eating, President Trump's doctor says he's in excellent condition, but CNN's Dr. Sanjay Gupta wasn't buying it now. He has his own diagnosis.
because of his diet and because of his lack of exercise. The president has heart disease. Those numbers qualify him for having heart disease.
But an actual cardiologist telling Laura Ingraham that's not true.
I characterize it as magical medical thinking. President Trump actually, shockingly, has, despite this purported diet of Big Macs, has cholesterol numbers and that are pretty average for his age.
Reporters grilled Dr. Ronnie Jackson on the president's health for almost an hour.
The controversial White House tell-all Fire and Fury is making the jump to the small screen. A production company has reportedly bought the film and television rights to the book and are planning to turn it into a TV series, a deal worth more than 7 figures. No network has signed on to the project yet.
All right. Time now, 54 minutes after the hour. A car covered in snow? Or is it? The prank pulled on some unsuspecting police officers and their hilarious response.
Plus, they want a pizza. The moment 2 hungry, drunk women took fast food into their own hands, and as everything nowadays, it is caught on camera. That's coming your way next.